So now we will be looking into the key technical terms which comes under research. This is very, very important for a data scientist. Understanding these will make a huge difference when you're working on a data science project. Okay. So we will understand this each terminology, each term with a specific example. So the example I'm going to take here, I'll write it down before. So I'll put it as terms. Okay. So example here, suppose we have a company, or suppose a company X, or let me take my company, Imlac wants to estimate the average income of its employees. So Imlac company wants to estimate the income of its employees. So this is our example. Okay, with this example we will be understanding those terminology. So let me put it here. Yeah, let's get back to our slide. So the first terminology that we have, the first word that we have is an element. An element is an object on which a measurement is taken. Okay, here who is our element? An element on which measurement is taken. So on whom we will be taking the measurement in this example? On whom? Tell me, on whom? Employee. So that's the reason an element is a single member of your company. That's what an element is a single member of your company. So in this case, each employee would be the element of your company or your population. Okay, so employee is the element. You can apply the same concept with the other examples also. That's the reason I'm making it very simple. Okay, employee is the element of your population. Okay, this is what the element is. Then we have population. A population is the entire group of individuals or items that the company is interested in studying, or in other way is a collection of elements about which we wish to. So that's what is a population. Population is the entire group of individuals or items that the company is interested in studying. We have two types of population we have seen before. You can watch that video also. Target population and study population. So in this example, population, what's my population here? So in this case, population would be all of the employees, all of the employees of the Imlac company. Okay, so that's what the population for us. Now let's move on. So next we have is a sample. Obviously, when you have an element, when you have a population, what's next? You need to do some statistics, you need to take some inferences. Then comes into the picture sample. So sample is a collection of sampling units drawn from sampling frame. This is too complicated definition, so I'll give you the much simpler definition here. So next, sampling units, sample is a subset of the population that is selected for the statistical study. That's it. A sample is a subset of the population that is selected for the statistical study. And in this case, example, let's take example. The company might choose to survey a random sample of 100 people, 100 employees. For example, population, the total employees of my company is one 10,000. Let's take 10,000. No, let me take 6,500. These are my total employees. Okay, so from this population I can't do the complete analysis on this whole population. I'm gonna go for the sample. So sample, I'll go for the random sampling of 1,000 employees. That's it. 1,000 employees. Okay, and that's it. So now this is done. Now let's move on to the other one. So sampling is done. Once sample you received, then sampling units. Sampling units are the individual units that are selected from the population to be part of the sample. Okay, so then who is the sampling unit in this case for me? So sampling unit is nothing but units individual units which are that are selected from the population to be part of the sample for statistical analysis. In this case, who is sampling unit for me? It's pretty simple, an employee. An element in population will become a sampling unit in sample. That's it. Okay. Next. Next. So once this is done, now let's move on to the next. That is sampling frame. A sampling frame is a list of all of the sampling units in a population. In the population, I'm talking about in the population. You have to listen very carefully this one or you will be confused. So sampling frame. What is my frame for sampling or sampling unit? So sampling frame is a list of all of the sampling units in the population. Okay, so in this case for me, my company's HR database might serve as the sampling frame. Okay, next, what's next? Let me check. We have parameter. These are very important for data scientist. Till now it's fine, but these are pretty important for a data scientist. So parameter is a numerical value that describe the characteristic of the population, or in simplistic way, numerical characteristic of a population. Population. Okay, parameter describes a characteristic, and a parameter is nothing but a numeric value, is a numerical value which describes characteristic of characteristic of population. That's it. That's what we call it as a parameter. Let's take one example. Example, parameter is equal to the average income of 1000. So total how much we have? We have 6500 employees. That's what my population na. Okay, the average income of 6500 employees in my company is known as parameter. In simplistic way, the average income of all the employees in the company would be called as a parameter. Okay, if you do any statistical analysis directly to the population, the numerical values that comes out of that statistical analysis are known as parameters. Next, the last one but not least, it's very important. This is what we will be ending up dealing with this continuously day in and day out if you are a data scientist or business analyst or data analyst. That is called statistic. A statistic is a numerical value that describes a characteristic of the sample. Characteristic of the sample. Remember that. Characteristic of the sample. So, statistic is a numerical value that describes a characteristic of a sample. Let's take one example. In this example, what's my sample size? Sample size is 1000 employees. Population size is 6500 employee. Now, for me, a statistic, one statistic is the average income of the 1000 employees surveyed would be a statistic here. Okay, so if you do any statistical analysis and comes out with numerical values, those numerical values which came out from sample are known as statistic. So in summary, the company's population would be all of its employees. Each employee would be an element. The company's population would be all of its employees, and each employee would be an element. A sample of 100 employees would be the selected. Each employee would be a sampling unit. The HR database would serve as the sampling frame, and the average income of all employees would be the parameter of interest, and the average income of the 1000 employees surveyed would be the statistic obtained from the sample.